Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we were discussing about the various equipments used for material handling, and we looked till conveyors. So first one was forklift truck. So forklift truck, it has a fork and a column. Fork and a column, and it raises the material at a certain height. So that is forklift truck. Then cranes. Cranes are used for outside purpose, outside the industry for heavy engineering purposes and all. Basically, hoisting heavy machineries. That is what is being done using cranes. And there are many types of cranes. Cranes that can rotate. You have seen big cranes in construction sites and all. So such cranes are even used outside the industry. So crane's basic job is to lift the material from one place to another. Then comes hoist. Hoist is another application of cranes, that is which is used inside the industry and which is also used for lifting up of material and transporting it from one place to another. Then comes monorail, which spans the entire ceiling of the industry, and this also is another application of cranes, but it is limited to its only one direction, that is only its horizontal direction movement, and its weight is limited to smaller tons than when compared with hoist and cranes. Okay, so that is monorails, and finally we studied about conveyors, and conveyors is nothing but we are transporting by means of a belt which is held in between two rollers, which rolls and provides a rolling motion to the conveyor belt. Okay, so these were the equipments that we studied earlier, and under conveyors itself there is other type of conveyors. So first one that you already seen is nothing but a belt type of conveyor. So this is also called a conveyor, and even this one also is called a conveyor, and this is called a roller conveyor. Okay, both are essentially the same function, but basic designs are different. So in a belt conveyor, we have a belt that is running a particular length. Okay, one of the problems of increasing the length in belt conveyors is nothing but with length, the belt has a tendency to sag, or a belt has a problem that it will not be stretched effectively. So during too much stretching, tension may occur and it may break. Also, it may not provide a sufficient pull. Okay, you have there will be a sagging, and obviously the friction generated at these 2 points will be less. So the belt will not rotate as per the rotation of the roller. So you can't bring it to that much length. For lengthwise purpose, we can use roller conveyors. Okay, that is one of the effectiveness of using roller conveyors, and we are using roller conveyors for bigger items. Okay, for bigger items, roller conveyors is better. Uh, for smaller items, the problem is that between two rollers there will be sufficient gap, and this gap will, in effect, will facilitate the movement or the leakage of the material through those gaps. Okay, so that is a problem. So we have to eliminate that, and hence bigger products can be used by roller conveyors, and while smaller components or products can be used in belt conveyors. Okay, in roller conveyors, it may be either gravity assisted or powered by a motor. So here you can see it is powered by a motor, which is these rollers are connected through a chain link. So you can see a chain here, as in the case of a bicycle itself. You can see a chain that is running over the sides of the rollers. So these chains provide the drive or the necessary rotation for the rollers to transport the material from one place to another. Okay, So ideal components are nothing but flat components that has flat bottoms. Okay, you can see this one. This is a packed container, and it consists of a flat bottom. Okay, both the top and bottom are flat, and this type of packing is very crucial for roller conveyors. Only then it can transport it much efficiently. But for smaller items and irregular shapes, belt conveyors are more than enough. Okay, belt conveyors. So those are the two types of conveyors. Another type of conveyor is a bucket conveyor. You can see how a bucket conveyor is arranged here, and this is also forming a motion. But here we are using the conveyor in a vertical direction. Both the roller and belt conveyors was in a horizontal direction. So you can transport it in a horizontal plane or from one place to another in the horizontal axis. While if you want to supply anything in the vertical axis, that means from one floor to another floor, etc., or to a certain height, you have to transport it, then we will use the bucket conveyors. So these are a little bit expensive, and more drive or power has to be given to run a bucket conveyors, because the load the bucket conveyors hold is much higher when compared with the other two. Other two in the sense roller and belt conveyors. Okay, so it is supported uh, at the bottom, and sometimes it is also supported at the top, and the bucket conveyors or the buckets move across this platform that is shown here. So the bucket is in turn connected through a belt conveyor. You can see there is a flat plate inside. Okay, this is same similar as that of a belt conveyor, and instead of the belt carrying the material, here the bucket is responsible for carrying the material from the bottom to the top, or from top to bottom. Okay, that is what is coming under bucket conveyors. And then finally comes the pipeline conveyors. So what is the pipeline conveyor specialty? So you are providing a big pipe in the direction, and this is assisted with gravity. Okay, we are not using any other type of powered machineries or powered equipments, etc. It is being transported directly through the pipe by means of gravity. So you can use small items that is having no damage, like grains and all. Okay, grains of sand or rice or wheat, etc., can be transported through this type of techniques. Okay, even uh, gaseous products also can be transported like this, but since we are dealing with material always refers to a semi-solid or a solid state product. So these are called materials, and hence we are discussing about materials, and such materials can also be uh, transported through this material. A semi-solid product may be in the shape of a cement or like a sludge. Okay, it can also be transported by this method. But the problem with the semi-solid state is nothing but it has a tendency to be occupying the walls of this pipeline. Okay, that is one of the problems of that, because of the friction generated inside the pipe. So that comes into effect when using a pipeline conveyor. So there was basically four types of conveyors. First one was a belt conveyor. Second is the roller conveyors, third is the bucket conveyors, and fourth is the pipeline conveyors. Okay, so those are the conveyors. Next comes the slides and the chutes. So you can see here what a chute or a slide is. So this is basically a completely gravity based gravity based transfer system, where we are providing an inclined surface in this manner, or even in the case of a slide. Okay, slide in the sense of pipeline conveyors, we are, instead of using a closed surface, we are using an open channel. Okay, the channel will have an inclined position such as shown here, and that inclination provides the necessary transportation or the motion with assisted gravity. So chutes are also responsible for such a transport, and that is shown here. So you can see how it is being. So in chutes, it will be completely sealed. So this is opened, right? An opened type uh, type of transport as shown here is called a slide, while a closed one inside a pipe or inside a hole, etc., can be termed as a chute. Okay. Now, some type of transport in chute or slides may be a vibrating type. Okay. So, additionally, we will be providing vibration to this uh, slides or chutes. The necessity for that is nothing but to ensure that all the components reach at the bottom side. So that is what we are ensuring. So in the case of a semi-solid or a sludge state, always due to the friction, there will be a remaining products or the remaining components, materials may be present over the surface of the chute or surface of the slides. This is undesirable, and hence we have to transport such products to our final location, and for that purpose we are using a vibrating type chute or vibrating type of slides. Okay, so those are slides and chutes. Next comes lifts. So one of the ways to hoist was always use a crane, right? But the crane height is limited to the floor itself, inside the floor itself. Even the cranes, the hoist, monorail, etc., was limited to one industrial floor. So it is only if you are using the ground floor, it can be only used in the ground floor. Okay, so that was the purpose of using monorail, cranes, and hoist. But if you want to carry something from one floor to another floor, then uh, to subsequent floors, if you want to send items like that, then we will use the help of lifts. So these are multi-story plans that in which the materials are lifted from one place to another. It is basically lifted in the vertical axis. Okay, these are the commonly used material transporting devices or equipments that is being used, and you have seen it multiple times during construction and all. Okay, so here the material is transported by means of this lift, and the lift is platformed here as shown here. There will be a platform there wherein it will be set there, and using this pulley system that is shown here, we are connecting the lift to it, and based on the rotation of the motor and the pulleys, we will get a movement towards the top or bottom depending upon where we are mentioning it. Okay, so that is the function of lifts. So here you can hold a large number of materials than in the case of bucket conveyors or etc. Okay, there is a larger area here. Okay, that is the advantages of using lifts. Next comes tractors and trailers. So these are also another uh, transportation vehicles or another material handling devices that helps in the transport of both packaged products and also raw materials. So during the initial and the final stages, tractors and trailers play a huge role wherein you are transporting items. Okay, transporting from the source to the company or from the company or the industry towards the market. So they play a huge role in the transportation, and since they are used for transportation, they are also known as material handling devices. So you can see there will be a container trailers as shown here, or there may be a tractors, and they employ an IC engine. So they use an engine instead of others using a motor, etc. Here we are using an engine, and used for outdoor purpose. So it is not coming into the inside purpose at all. So the raw materials are brought to the industry, and from the industry it is then being okay, from the industry it is then being packaged into a product, and from that packaging itself the product is being sent into the market, and these are done by the tractors and trailers. So those were the basic types of uh, material handling equipments that we have seen. So first one was forklift truck, second one was cranes, third one was hoist, fourth one was monorails, fifth one was conveyors, sixth one slides and chutes, then comes lifts, and finally tractors and trailers. So these are the material handling equipments. Next we will look at the principles of material handling. So what are the basic principles? So basically there are 20 types of material handling principles. So each and every one can be asked, and it's also an important topic. So first one is planning. So we are looking at the principles. Okay, what we are going to do. So planning. First step is planning. Obviously, planning is nothing but we are planning what all activities has to be done in order to provide a good material handling. So your basic criteria is nothing but you are transporting the material, handling the material from one location to another. And what are the steps in which we can handle such an activity, or how long does it has to take? So these are all done during the initial planning stage. So we have already studied so many planning stages, and planning stages were the part of a product design when the industry itself is being planned, right? So during that planning cycle also we are planning for material handling. So in a broad sense, all the planning is necessary when running an industry, and one type of planning that is required or that is done is by the planning operation in material handling. Okay, so that is coming under planning. Next comes systems. So we are planning a system to integrate as many handling activities as possible, covering operations such as receiving, storage, production, inspection, packaging, warehousing, supply, and transportation. So such systems are being integrated into the material handling activities. Okay, so we are planning a system wherein what are the operations to be performed and what is the order of that order of that operations. So how the operations has to be done. So first, which one has to be done? So first you are receiving the raw materials, then you are storing the raw materials, then after that you are going into the production. After the production we are inspecting the products for any defects or any accidents or damages. After that, we are then packing it, and then again storing it in inventory. Once it is stored in an inventory, it is then supplied uh, for to the market, or transported to the customer. That is depending upon the order how the industry does. So we are planning that system. So what all operations has to be carried out, how the order must be, and how the system should effectively uh, do the material handling process. So that is coming under systems. Then comes space utilization. So we have already learned how the space has to be utilized. So that is one of the principles during industrial engineering. So we have to utilize all the space inside an industry for effective management of each departments or each production cycle. So for that we have to have the space utilized. So any waste space is also considered a wastage under lean manufacturing, and thus we have to avoid that. We have to utilize the space as maximum as possible with all the necessity commodities or basic comforts. Okay, we are not compromising such things, but we are utilizing the space as better as possible. So that comes under space utilization. Then comes a unit load. So what is unit load? The size of unit load or unitized load should be optimum so that it can be efficiently handled by the handling equipment. So we have to obviously load the product. or the packaged product or the raw materials from one place to another. We have to carry it, and we are loading it basis of uh, on basis of the handling equipment that we are using. So there may be a conveyor belt, that is one type of handling equipment. Another may be a forklift truck. Another may be a crane. Another may be a lift. So these are all types of material handling equipments. So all these equipments has a certain load limit. So a forklift truck can only lift about a such and such weight. So you have seen in cranes, basically cranes and hoist, you have seen what is the difference. So in hoist a 5 ton, cranes 2 ton, so etc. You have seen, right? So that is a difference there. So we are looking at how much units that can be transported by that particular equipment without compromising its efficiency. That is what you are saying. So it has an efficiency, right? So this much fastly it can run the operations, and that efficiency is based on how fast the operations is carried out, right? So if you are increasing the load, think if you instead of a 2 ton you are increasing it about to 2.5 ton, so the vehicle must, in case of a forklift truck, the vehicle must move a load greater than its own capacity, and obviously more work has to be done. So this can compromise the smooth flow there, or it may compromise the continuous flow there. So that is why it is said that the load should be optimum, so it can be efficiently handled. So an optimum amount of load is already specified, maybe 2 ton or 5 ton, etc. is already specified. You must not go above that. Okay, if you go above that, you can make it work efficiently, and obviously your machine will be destroyed. Okay, so that is the unit load principle. So you have to determine the optimal load for each of the type of handling equipment used. Next comes gravity. So gravity plays an important role in the transportation of materials, and usage of gravity is advantageous because it does not require any external power source, and hence it is never uh, a disadvantage because of the so if you're implementing the gravity system, obviously the profit generation will be higher because no cost is incurred for the transportation of that material from one place to another. So we are completely using the help of gravity, wherein through one side of the opening, preferably at the top, we are dumping, or we are providing the material that is to be transported, and from there the material is then uh, brought into the point of source, or the point where it is needed. So that is how gravity assist, and the gravity assisted type of equipments were slides, chutes, pipe conveyors, etc. Okay, these were all utilizing gravity, and gravity is also another principle of material management. Then material flow. So how the material flow has to be done. So we are, and this also comes under the planning. This also comes in the planning principle of planning principle of material handling and material flow. We have already discussed what are the materials, what are the types of materials included in the term material, and we are planning the operation or the sequence in which we can optimize material flow. Here also the optimum uh, the optimization is done by increasing the efficiency by calculating the optimum number of materials required for that flow. So here also, if you are using more number of materials for that material flow, then obviously again it is over the limit and will pose problems for the material flow. In order, if you don't want that to happen, you can plan it ahead, and you can uh, find out the optimum material required for the flow to continue smoothly. Okay, so these are about material flow. So basically, we studied about planning, the principles of material handling, planning, systems, space utilization, unit load, gravity, and finally material flow. We looked upon these many principles. Next is the simplification. Also coming under the principles of material management is simplification. So what happens if you don't simplify your job or simplify how you handle the material? So essentially, I have already told you, we have to simplify the processes and operations that is carried out in the industry. This is because it may ultimately help a new person or a new fresher coming into the industry during the training period, and helps in the technological updation. Okay, these are some of the advantages there. But the problem is that if you complicate a design or complicate the function, obviously no one would understand it, and it will cause a problem even for a new employee or a new fresher when coming into the company. So such if that poses a problem, of course, we won't find good laborers for that particular operation. Hence, you can simplify the process so that everyone becomes skilled in that particular process and can do the work to recreate that process or transport the material more easily. So these are uh, possible only if you simplify the process that is done. And how can you simplify this? Simplification is done basically by removing any unwanted or unnecessary movement or more material handling processes that are present uh, in the industry. So that is coming under simplification. Then comes safety. Obviously, safety is one of the major concern during a risky job, and also every other job. Also, safety is one essential factor. Basically, uh, a risk in the sense comes from the type of job, such as in oil rigs or in a space station or in a rocket engine, etc. There are some concerns for that safety, or the risk level is higher. So, safety in material handling is nothing but you are providing basic safety equipment such as helmets, gloves, goggles, etc. These assist in the safety during the handling of materials. Obviously, hot iron during the forging process, if you are transforming it, 1 minute. Okay, so on basis of the risk factor, safety is also playing an important principle during the material handling process. Next comes mechanization. So one of the major part during material handling in olden days was the use of uh, use of human labors. So human labors usage during the industrial revolution period essentially uh, proved the revolution time, but the problem was that they are limited to certain type of jobs, basically a lifting purpose or basically a transportation or basically the works to be done. Okay, they were needed to have skilled workers for each and every processes. But during the modern times, we were dependent on the machines itself, right? So basically, everything were done, or nowadays everything is basically done using machines, right? Even the farming inside the paddy field, or the cropping of the weeds or cropping of the wheat or rice. from the paddy fields are all done using a machine that is shown here. In olden days, it was done by laborers, so the time and the cost incurred during that process was very high, and that time is also one factor that can decide how good the crops are or how good the things are, right? So that is mechanization essentially. But in the case of material handling, mechanization comes in the form of all the material handling equipments I have earlier stated. So all these equipments are basis of a machine itself, and they eliminate the need for laborers, or they reduce the fatigue of the laborers, and this reduction of fatigue results in more work efficiency of the personnel. Also, and also we can improve the time or reduce the time delay that is occurring during the process. So that is why we are using mechanization, and in the future maybe completely the human resources can be replaced by machines that are robots, thereby completely mechanizing each and every process. Next is standardization, and under standardization, as stated before in simplification also, simplification we are simplifying the work, but in standardization we are standardizing the work, and standardization is done after the basis for system. So we in systems we are planning what are the operations to be carried out, and under standardization only will we apply that system and operations in the order, and this system has to be followed by everyone or every personnel inside the industry. So that is standardization basically. And under material handling, the standardization may depend upon the operation during the movement of material. So how the material has to be moved by means of gravity or by means of a powered equipment, etc. So these are all coming into material handling equipment, and we are standardizing that material. So if you are having forklift truck to transport the product from one place to the inventory, then we are using forklift truck only for that purpose. Okay, we are not substituting that forklift truck to a human labor. No, once you are setting or once you are standardizing a forklift truck for the inventory stocking up, then a forklift truck itself is used for that process itself. Okay, so that is what is known as standardization. Then comes flexibility. So what is flexibility? We use methods and equipments that can perform a variety of tasks and field applications. So one of the advantages of having flexibility is nothing but uh, so you are using an equipment. If that equipment has multiple function, one of the advantages is nothing but if the production of the component is coming into a decline stage, you will obviously look for a new production of or a new product to be produced. Okay, to keep the customer demand alive. So if you have an equipment that can adjust to the process or the operations carried out on the modified product or the new product, then obviously you don't have to replace the machine, right? You can itself use that machine for that particular purpose. Similarly, in the case of a material handling device, we can use that machine each and every time. So depending upon the product, even produced, maybe if it is producing a glass, even if it is producing a plate, or even if it is producing a utensil, etc. Anything if it is producing, we can use a forklift truck for all the purposes of loading and stocking up inventory. So that is the flexibility there. So it can be always used for the transport of material depending upon the material that is being used. So it is, if even if it differs, it can be used for multiple purposes. So that is what is meant by flexibility. It must be able to perform variety of tasks, not a single task. Okay, so many purposes it can be used. So already we have studied about trailers and tractors, right? Trailers and tractors are helpful in two methods. They can carry raw materials to the company and also from the company products to the market. So these are the advantages there. So they are flexible for transportation only, but they can be flexible for transporting the two types of material, basically raw materials and also the transport of finished products. So that is the flexibility coming under there. So I'll wind up the class today, and the rest we will study in the next class. Okay.